So we got new Gear Lab stuff last week, and I did testing, and yeah, so the rainbow should be a gold, and the gold could be a rainbow for its niche at least. So let's go over the new stuff. I'm going to spend like half the video on spearfish and then like almost the other half on the torpedo, and then like these two really fast. So let's start with the fast ones. So the BB gun is just like FDG gun from PR2, the twin 406 SKC something. So like it's fast firing HE gun. This one has slightly better DPS, but it's got worse spread. It does have higher shell velocity, so like it's almost, I mean, it's as fast as some AP shells and almost as fast as the fast AP shells. But basically that's like not really useful. I mean, HE barrage guns aren't useful in the first place, like fast firing guns. Just use Mark 7, Mark 6, the 406 for doing actual damage. And if you want your battleship to fire faster, fire more often, well, first that's kind of useless in bossing, and in mobbing, like 457mm exists, the Georgia gun rainbow. Now the fighter is just a copy of its material, except that it's faster, it reloads faster, and has slightly more plain HP. So now like it actually has the highest theoretical burst A DPS here, but like it has 2 times 500 pound bombs, which means that it loses to 2 times 1000 pound bombs on the service fleet. So the only place left for it is the support fleet in chapter 15, and in the support fleet, Fok Wolf is tied with Skyrocket for second. So I'm not going to bother testing Shiden Kai 4, but like just from stats alone, it has great anti-air considering it has faster interception reload than Fok Wolf. So like, but I don't see it being better than Fok Wolf because it's faster, it spends less time on screen. But if it does equal Fok Wolf in effectiveness, then like congratulations, you pay gold materials for two airplanes in order to match a purple airplane. Like if you want to pay gold materials, then just make flak jackets the best. Okay, now the purples we don't talk about. So spearfish. So I went to 15.4 lethal, and I don't use clearing mode because clearing mode would turn the enemy support carrier fleets into normal carrier fleets, and I don't want that. And then I use no cross fleet, no subs, and then double line. So this is the fleet. Musashi, Akula, Unicorn, Laffy, and some random ship I was leveling, and Jean. And the gear is over here. So just like standard gear. And the Vanguard doesn't have the best DPS, but it's serviceable. And I was using 2 rainbow AA guns with some more plus 13 AA guns. And support carriers were using budget purple. Well, like, it's budget, but it's good. So Skyrocket and Fok Wolf. And basically I changed the two torpedo bombers, so like this Akula's Wyvern here and Unicorn's Bruglet here. So the default is Wyvern for both. So like here, Wyvern for both. And my Spearfish is plus 13, while my Wyverns and Bruglets are plus 10. So these 5 on the left are how much HP the fleet had after fighting the 2 support carrier fleets. And the 5 on the right are how much HP the fleet had after fighting the first boss. So like there's some correlation between the first one on the left and the first one on the right because they were in the same sortie. If like this 5th battle they ended low HP after 2 battles, then yeah, they'll be also low HP after 4 battles. So I started with Wyvern and got these results. They don't mean much though until you see the other ones. And then I tried changing Aquala's Wyvern to a Spearfish, and yeah, the fleet was kind of dead. So like this red part means that I just didn't play the battle, or like I played the battle and didn't win. So yeah, putting Spearfish on Aquila is kind of bad. And then I tried putting Spearfish on Unicorn, and it was actually decent compared to Wyvern. I didn't count pixels this time because I was too lazy, but like just eyeballing it, Spearfish Wyvern could be like about the same as Wyvern, but keep in mind that the Spearfish is plus 13, which means that even its torpedoes alone do as much damage as the plus 10 Wyvern's torpedoes. And yeah, we ignore the Vanguard health because like that's just RNG and it's not relevant to airplane testing. So yeah, we were here, so Spearfish on Unicorn is decent. Now I put Wyvern back on Unicorn and switched Aquila to Bruglet, and it was terrible. Like the first 2 battles were okay, and then the 3rd battle was just terrible, and then I gave up. And then Unicorn Bruglet and Aquila Wyvern, it's even more terrible. I gave up after 2 sorties. So like the moral of the story is that Bruglet is a lot weaker than Wyvern. Big shocker. And then double Bruglet, I copied this setup from some random Chinese video, and like I guess they were going for like really fast reload for some timing reason, but then I think they had like max tech and also O's, and also like some plus 13 Bruglets. My Bruglet is only plus 10, and like this thing just didn't do enough damage to clear the waves, and the battle lasted way too long. So it was terrible. So like the conclusion, I guess, is that Spearfish could match Wyvern on chapter 15 if you plus 13 it compared to a plus 10 Wyvern. So like some people argue that Spearfish's rockets will enable you to kill elites faster, but like there's no timing where you want to kill elites faster that Wyvern doesn't already do. So like Spearfish on Unicorn was the best performing one of all the Spearfish setups, and basically Musashi wipes the first wave or second wave, I don't remember, and then Milko and a bunch of production enemies spawn. And for that wave, you always need like both Aquila and Unicorn airstrikes to kill that wave. So like Unicorn could, with Spearfish, chip away Milko's health by more, and then Aquila could finish her along with the rest of the production enemies. But like using double Wyvern will do the same job. And Wyvern has interception, while Spearfish does not. And then for all the waves after that, your rockets are basically hitting medium and heavy armor carriers. And those carriers should die to your battleship already. So like a bit more chip damage doesn't help a lot. So that's Spearfish in Chapter 15 mobbing. So let's go to the only other niche you can do, which is anti-light bossing. So despite being a parallel torpedo, it is the strongest torpedo bomber against light. But note that like Hellcats with HVAR rockets and like probably even BF-109G, they do better anti-light damage than all torpedo bombers. So basically you're only using Spearfish on carriers that are locked to torpedo bombers, like the Japanese ones, instead of Yorktown 2. Or like Enterprise has a small TB slot. So here's the math, I guess. Like basically Spearfish, you add these rows together and get this row, so like light, medium, heavy. And on light it can compete with Scion. Scion is the fastest converging torpedo bomber, and it has similar timing to Spearfish, which means that they're basically interchangeable without breaking your sinks. Like, not the sinks you wash your hand in, but the synchronization. Like, if you change a Ju 87D or a Ryusei, if you change it to a Spearfish, it might mess up your timing. And Scion has a base damage like this, but it also has 20 less aviation than Wyvern and Spearfish do, because it's gold. And how much damage is 20 AV worth? It's worth 2% damage, around 2% damage for the whole carrier. But this is only a single torpedo bomber slot, and depending on how strong that torpedo bomber slot is compared to the whole carrier, you get a different amount of benefit that plus 20 AV does relative to this slot. So like if I just say it's 6%, it's worth 6%, and we get this row of numbers, basically nerfing the Scion by 6% compared to the rainbows. And then since Spearfish has parallel torpedoes and it has rockets too, let's assume that the rockets always hit the target, which they will if Scions all hit the target. So rockets have 100% hit rate, it hits all 4. But the parallel torpedoes, obviously not all of them will hit the boss, especially if the boss is frozen or slowed, which is necessary for the rocket and Scion to hit. So like, let's say the boss has 0 speed, then how many parallel torpedoes hit? It should be around like 1.3 3 ace, whatever that is, 375 maybe. That should be around how many torps hit on average. So even if we demote it a little bit, like 1.35, it's still going to beat Scion on light, and it's still going to lose on medium and heavy. And how low can it get? So like 1.1, even 1.12 torpedoes hitting, it'll still beat Scion on light. But of course this is all assuming that the Spearfish is of the same enhance as Scion, and as a rainbow it costs 3 times as many gold plates to go from plus 10 to plus 13. So like really it's not recommended. unless you're like a boomer and you could afford the plus 13 spearfish. But even then, you're not going to replace all of your science because you can't afford that many plus 13 spearfish. So yeah, like you're paying rainbow gear materials for a gold equip, basically. Let's have an interlude, a hands-on demonstration of why spearfish sucks. This is the most important reason why it sucks. So like here I have spearfish and orbiting pod, torpedo bomber skin. So here, airstrike, and we have the torpedoes, but where are the rockets? Like, where are my rockets? So basically, spearfish rockets don't work with any torpedo bomber skin. And when you're equipped with a torpedo bomber like spearfish, you can only equip torpedo bomber skins. So these skins apply to the torpedoes, but it just turns the rockets invisible. Because there's no skin for them, I guess. But why couldn't they just use the default rocket skin, right? No rockets. No rockets. And that's why spearfish sucks. Now let's talk about the torpedo. So this torpedo has reversed ammo mods, which means that it's good against light unlike most torpedoes, and it's bad against heavy unlike most torpedoes. And here I have something completely unrelated to Azur Lane. So like maybe it's just a coincidence that that there are like 4 random black dots that shoot out from the green boxes towards the red box. Yeah, just a coincidence. So basically these torpedoes aren't magnetic, and that's why like people just think they're trash. But they're actually not trash. They're the best torpedoes against light armor, even when you're on auto. Like for example, that time 2 of them just hit. Like obviously magnetic torpedoes hit more often, but when this new torpedo hits light armor, when it hits, each torpedo that hits is worth 2 magnetic torpedoes because the damage, the raw damage and ammo modifiers are just so big. 182 times 1.3 versus 182 times 1.3 is like 236 per torpedo, while magnetics are 145 times 0.8 for light armor, and like let's say 2 of them hit, then it's still less than 1 torpedo of the new Iris torpedoes hitting. So like let's say like quad magnetics, the Iron Blood ones, they have 54% hit rate. Can I just freeze this? Alright, let me just take more space. So quad mags have, let's say, 54% hit rate for tight torps, which is those destroyers that have the max limit break bonus of decreasing torpedo spread. So if quad mags get 54%, while the new Iris Torps get 33%. Yeah. Quad mag is hitting less than 2 torpedoes more, double the torpedoes of Iris. Which means that the new torpedoes beat quad mags by a lot. And the difference is so big that even at plus 10 it'll beat a plus 13 quad mag. For normal torps, they're not spread reduced. Same deal, so quad mag gets 49% hit rate, and these Iris Torps get 30% hit rate, and again the light damage is much larger. And just because something is shiny doesn't mean it's good, as you can see here. So the rainbow quint magnetics aren't better than the quad magnetics in most battles, because if they get fewer salvos, then they have slightly worse accuracy. They end up hitting fewer torps in total. But if the battle length favors quint magnetics, like if it's 80 seconds, then quint mags are getting 4 salvos and quad mags are also getting 4 salvos, counting the preload. So in that case, quint wins over quad because of their more torps. So these are random moving bosses like this red square that coincidentally looks like how a real boss would move. So here we have bosses that don't move. They're just sitting in the middle, and while your vanguard moves and fires. So here, actually, the new torpedoes don't beat quad mags by very much, so it's just a slight win. Because when the boss doesn't move, the quad mags have a lot higher accuracy than if the boss were moving. And here, normal spread, non-moving boss. Again, the new torpedo on light slightly beats quad mags, but also consider the American quad mags, the single line quad mags. They actually have equal damage on light to the new torpedoes. And this is also the only case where the American quads are good on a random ship. So when the random ship doesn't have spread reduction and when the boss is not moving, then the Mark 35 is better than the Ironblood quad mags. In every other case, it's worse than quad mags. So yeah, I guess that's it. This torpedo has a niche for light armor, and it's the best in that niche by far. While this spearfish has a niche, and it's the best in that niche by a tiny bit, and it costs as much material as a typical rainbow does, like maybe even more to craft it because it needs 9 rainbow ordnance. That was 30 minutes. Maybe I can talk about the old gear that got added to Gear Lab. So Sextuple is... Let me open the game actually. So Sextuple is obviously the A gun with the highest alpha damage. It's good on ships with high AA like San Diego, and it'll be helpful in chapter 13 and chapter 15, but not much else. So like as a new player you don't need it. So like after you reach chapter 13 then maybe you can craft some. And yeah, I was opening the game to check the cost. So Sextuple, the predecessor, is a purple. The purples are cheap. We don't care about the purple's cost. This thing just costs 21 electronics, which is okay. By the time you get to chapter 13, you should have some electronics. Now, Twin 114 it used to be good, but then a lot more also good guns got released. What does it cost though? So it costs this. You have to make this gold gun and then you have to make this gold gun, so you're basically paying double this and double this. So it's kind of expensive. And it's obviously it's straight up worse than this rainbow, but rainbow is rainbow, rainbow costs rainbow things. So like let's compare it to gold. This gold is also a good DD gun. It's slower firing than the 114, but it does more damage against medium and heavy. But it's a lot cheaper because you don't have to craft 2 gold guns to get 1 gold gun. And then if you're doing research like PR5, then you also get the twin 130mm, which is similar to this but slower and a lot more damage. That's also a good destroyer gun. So basically not worth crafting. Sextuple is worth crafting when you get to chapter 13. 114 is not worth crafting. 234 is not worth crafting. So like this Cheshire gun. You have to craft this, which costs 6 ordnance. Ordnance is used for a lot of things nowadays. And then you pay 6 more ordnance. And it just gives you a gold CA gun. And this gold CA gun, I mean, like, why not just use Boygan gun? This thing, it comes from tech boxes, random drops. The Rainbow 234, it's also available in prototype shop. Heavy cruiser's damage is not really important unless it's Hindenburg or Unzen. If it's Unzen, then you probably have her own Rainbow HE gun. So obviously this gun, the straight gun, will be better than Unzen's gun against medium and heavy, but Rainbow is Rainbow and you can just use that Rainbow for free. If it's for Hindenburg, then by the time you get Hindenburg to Dev 30, then you should have a Hindenburg gun, which is better than Drake gun against everything except light and slightly heavy. And if you need 2 guns for Hindenburg, then well, sure, by that time you can probably afford it in prototype shop. Because like for this, if you're crafting it from scratch, you have to pay 6 here and then pay 6 here, and then you need 6 rainbows. So this is really low priority. Also, the more important reason is that it uses these, which are competing with the 457mm. So this one is a lot more important to get than the Drake gun, just like Spearfish. Spearfish also costs these rainbow things. So like the order could be like you want 2 of these 457mm, and then you can decide between that super niche and expensive Spearfish or a Drake gun for your CA. And this just trash. This, it comes from research anyways, the purple torpedo. I guess it's just on the way to craft the anti-light torpedo. And then this is the best AP BP gun on the 20-second timing. But the problem with it is that you have to craft this first, Jambar's gun, and that's 21 electronics. And then you can, no electronics here, but it still costs 6 ordnance. So it's kinda expensive, but you could craft it if you need to rush them. But otherwise you should still be buying them from prototype shop, like here. 3. You can only buy 20 blueprints per month. So it takes a few months to get 2 or 3 of these guns. So like, it's good, but low priority in Gear Lab.